Hi, I'm Olivia from Wilkinson Cameras, and today we have an incredible new product that a lot of professional Canon users have been waiting for, the Canon EOS R1. Just last week, Canon invited me to try out both the R1 and the new R5 Mark II in Munich. If you want to check out that video, then head to the link in the corner or in the description box below. But both cameras share a lot of incredible features like accelerated capture, action priority, deep learning AI technology, in-camera upscaling, and so many new features. But I'll get into more of those in this video, so make sure to stick around until the end. The top features for the R1 are 40 frames per second, accelerated capture, cross-type autofocus, a brand new 24.2 megapixel back illuminated stacked dual pixel CMOS sensor, 6K 60p RAW, 2.5T Ethernet, and very high resolution EVF. But first things first, a couple of disclaimers. All of our sample photos and videos are taken on pre-production beta sample cameras. The final results may vary. I have had to use JPEG images instead of the RAW files because the RAW file hasn't been released to Adobe yet, but Canon took us on the trip to Munich, but we're not sponsored or paid by Canon to make this content, and any opinions are our own. Also, please bear in mind that this is a first look video and not a full review. I had a very limited time with both the R1 and the R5 too, and it was physically impossible to fully test their capabilities in only 4 hours. The tagline for the R1 is "Ahead of the Games," highlighting the camera's exceptional speed and high performance. It's designed to be an ultimate system for capturing headline-worthy shots in sports and action photography. And let me tell you, it did just that. So let's start with the sensor. It's a brand new stacked sensor specifically designed for the R1. It has a fast signal readout, meaning the rolling shutter distortion is massively reduced compared to the R3 and other cameras, of course. The sensor also has a new GD low pass filter, which has been designed to remove moire without compromising on image quality or sharpness, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. The new sensor also has a new pixel lineup, which brings cross-type autofocus to EOS R mirrorless cameras for the first time. Cross-type autofocus brings massively improved AF and was previously seen in DSLR cameras and did give DSLRs the edge when it came to high-end autofocus performance. That's no longer the case and closes that final gap between DSLR and mirrorless performance. Combine that with the fast sensor readout and the pure processing power and computing found in the R1, and it means that AF is astoundingly fast, accurate, and powerful. An exciting new feature in Canon's EOS R1 camera is accelerated capture image engine, which powered by its most advanced imaging processing system. The Digic accelerator combined with the Digic X processor and of course the brand new 24.2 megapixel sensor enables the camera to handle vast amounts of data. This results in swift and accurate autofocus, higher frame rates, and reduced rolling shutter distortion. The rolling shutter is now the fastest in its class, and it's actually faster than a mechanical shutter. So in the arena with the athletes, I noticed that the autofocus was incredibly fast and the buffer was seamless, and the high frame rates captured every single moment, almost like a video actually. This makes it ideal for sports, wildlife photography, and any fast action scenarios. Speaking of fast, let's talk about the autofocus capabilities of the R1, starting with the AF tracking. So AF tracking now supports subject crossing, allowing it to maintain focus on selected players, even if another player briefly passes in front. It's a significant improvement for sports photographers, and it is also useful, very useful for video. Something a lot of Canon users might be familiar with in current models is Servo AF cases, where you select a case from 1 to 4 depending on your subject and action within your frame. Canon have now integrated all of the cases into 2 cases, auto and manual, where you can customize characteristics. I left the Servo autofocus case on auto and I found no issues with this. This makes it more straightforward and easier to manage your AF settings for different types of action. No need to worry about changing AF case when your subject or circumstances change. With the R1 and the R5 II, there's now dual pixel intelligent autofocus, which has further enhancements in dual pixel CMOS AF 2 based on accelerated capture and deep learning AI. But accelerated capture and dual pixel intelligent AF now mean that the R1 and the R5 II can quickly analyze large volumes of data and has enhanced subject detection, now detecting the upper half of the body, avoiding obstacles by estimating the head area, action priority, and registered people. With cross-type AF, this means the AF is sensitive in two directions, horizontal and vertical. This is useful when you're photographing a subject with low contrast or shooting through, say, a football net where it is difficult to focus. You're guaranteed a shot in those difficult scenarios. This is what makes the R1 have the best AF system in the R system. Another feature carried over from the R3 but now improved is eye control AF. This feature doesn't make the camera follow your eye movements directly. Instead, it uses your line of sight to move the focus point, replacing the need for the joystick on the back of the camera. It may take a bit of practice to get used to, but once mastered, it becomes a highly useful tool. The eye control AF in the R1 is more responsive than that in the R3. Now with the R1 and the R5 II, Canon has improved the detection algorithm, expanded the eye detection area, and doubled the detection frame rate compared to the R3, making it more in tune with your eye movement. New with the Canon R1 and the R5 II is action priority. This essentially predicts where the action is within the frame and has high speed detection at up to 60 frames per second. This is an in-camera setting with a few options like football and basketball. Once enabled, this will allow you to capture every frame with sharp focus. Another feature, register people priority, allows you to basically store faces and set them as priorities for both stills and video. Simply take a photo of your subject, register it in the camera, and the camera will detect their face, prioritizing focus, brightness, and other features or settings for them. You can register up to 10 people, making it perfect for larger events like press conferences, sporting events, weddings, and so many more. You are also able to combine register people with action priority. I tried this on a group of basketball players. I registered one athlete and the camera tracked him throughout, even when there was multiple athletes in the shot moving about. You can see this as he approaches the net, other athletes crossing in front of him, and the focus predicts where he's going to be and tracks focus. Very, very clever technology. Like most new cameras nowadays, Canon have used deep learning AI technology in the R1, which was originally developed in the EOS 1DX Mark III. This massively improves autofocus, image quality, capture speeds, video and reliability of the camera. It features in-camera upscaling, which essentially means that the deep learning technology allows you to upscale your images in camera to up to 4 times the initial resolution, to just over 96 megapixel images. So for those times where 24 megapixels isn't enough, you can blow the image up whilst retaining image quality and data. Canon say that this is possible because it's their camera, their sensor, their lenses, their data effectively. It's not Photoshop guessing the best way to do it. It's Canon using every bit of their knowledge to upscale that data in the best way possible. So 96 megapixel images without having to switch into a dedicated high resolution mode. Pretty crazy with a camera of this speed. For those photographers that shoot with high shutter speed and ISO, you no longer need to worry about noise. In the R1, you can apply neural network noise reduction in camera that reduces noise by 2 stops. Speaking of Photoshop and noise reduction, something that ties in nicely with these new in-camera features is that Canon are also releasing a DPP plugin for Lightroom. Canon seem to have realised that most professionals are using Lightroom and other Adobe products for most of their workflow, so seeing them tie in some of the Canon DPP features and bring in these neural network image processing features into Adobe is brilliant. I can't wait to test these properly when I open the raw files that I shot, when they get released, of course. Another feature the deep learning technology brings to the R1 is 8.5 stops of in-body image stabilisation, which is an improvement on the R3. They've put in a new IS mechanism which will improve the stabilisation, especially in video and when you have long lenses mounted onto the camera. Also new is Detect Priority Autofocus, which prioritises the exposure adjustment based on the subject detection autofocus that you set up within camera. Canon have also improved the metering and white balance by increasing the number of metering zones from 384 zone meterings found in the R3 and the R5 to 6,144 zone metering. This means better accuracy with colour and brightness, especially when you're photographing or videoing smaller subjects. For speed, the camera can do up to 40 frames per second, but what's great with the R1 and the new R5 too is that you have the option to customize the frame rate. So you can do 30, 20, 15, 12 and so on. You have 3 different levels of burst: high speed continuous plus, high speed continuous and low speed continuous. You can set specific speeds for all 3 of those levels and then customize a button to switch from one speed to another. So depending on your scenarios, you can switch frame rates. So you can be shooting at 1 frame rate and instantly access a faster frame rate as you need it. This is a huge upgrade from the EOS R3. Thanks to the back illuminator stacked dual CMOS sensor and accelerated capture, this allows for fast readout speeds, ensuring you capture every single moment. There's pre-continuous shooting of up to 20 frames per second in both RAW and JPEG. This will ensure that you won't miss any action, especially with subjects that are quite skittish, so like birds or insects or whatever. To complement these speeds, flash sync is now up to 400th of a second without having to use a high speed setting. There's also dual shooting. This is a useful feature for specific scenarios. Dual shooting mode lets you record full HD 60 frames per second videos while simultaneously capturing 17 megapixel images in a 16:9 ratio at up to 10 frames per second. However, there are some limitations. Your video is restricted to full HD and your stills are limited to widescreen ratio JPEGs. So personally, I don't see myself using this feature often, but it has potential and could become more interesting as it evolves in future camera models. Better than the R5 too, the R1 has blackout-free electronic viewfinder at $9.44 million versus $5.76 million on the R3. So a very good and improved viewfinder. The EVF is also anti-fog and has the highest dot count, magnification and brightness in the EOS series. This feels almost like an optical viewfinder thanks to a very lifelike, bright and large view you get from it. Like the EOS R3, and as you'd expect in a model at this level, there's an integrated vertical grip allowing you to shoot in both landscape and portrait. The R1 is 100 grams heavier than the R3, but you have a larger eyepiece for better eye control and a whole lot of advanced features. In hands, the camera feels nice, a bit too big for me, as you can imagine, with tiny little hands. But for those professional photographers out there with super telephoto lenses, this is the one for you. Onto my favorite part, the video. Even though the R1 is photo first, it has a very good video specification. That being 6K 60p raw video, 4K 120p, 4K 60p oversampled, and 2K or full HD at 240 frames per second. The R1 can film in both C-Log2 and 3. C-Log2 has 16 plus stops of dynamic range, which is the highest for Canon, and C-Log3 has 14 plus stops of dynamic range. This leads me nicely onto custom pictures, which is a feature on both the R1 and the R5 too. This allows you to use several colour profiles with different colour spaces on your footage. For minor features, there's industry standard file naming, a red tally light indicator on the camera and the LCD screen, false colour for correct exposure, and many more great features. One R1 specific feature worth a mention is the support of News MLG2 video metadata support. This is a metadata standard in the news industry, so for journalists, this is really a must-have. But not forgetting the audio, the R1 has 4-channel 24-bit audio recording and is compatible with the Tascam XLR adapter and the DM-E1D directional stereo microphone. This is great because it slides straight onto the multifunction show on the top of the camera with no cables, keeping your setup super neat and nice. There's an extensive amount of audio settings within the menu, so there's plenty to choose from. So whilst this may be a stills first camera, you can see just from the headline video features that it's also a very capable video camera as well. Moving on to network and connectivity, the R1 includes Wi-Fi 6E and 2.5 gig base T Ethernet. It's the fastest network camera on the market currently and twice as fast as the R3. Multi-threading means you can send multiple files at once to really make the most of these speeds. So you can now deliver more files and faster than before. There's also automatic switching between wired or wireless connection, whichever is faster, or to allow you to quickly move between locations with no dropout. Additionally, you can use the Canon Connect app to control the camera and perform various tasks. With most key specifications covered, let's briefly compare the R1 to the R3. Yes, they look similar, but there are a lot of improvements and new features to the R1. Canon have taken on board a lot of feedback from the R3 users and EOS 1D system users to make the R1 the very best and designed to do its quite specific job incredibly well. As expected, the R1 surpasses all Canon EOS R cameras in many aspects. It boasts a new and improved 24.2 megapixel sensor, enhanced low light capabilities, superior AF tracking, cross-type autofocus, advanced video codecs, faster processing and better quality upscaling. This camera is what people wanted the R3 to be, and it's definitely been worth the wait. And what's even better, I think we'll see even more in the future with firmware updates. The R1 body will be launched at $6,999. That's a bold price, especially when you compare it to the Sony A1 and the Nikon Z9, but at the moment this stands in a class of its own. The EOS R1 is designed as a professional sports, wildlife and news camera to be the very best, the fastest and the most durable, the best connected, the best autofocus, the list goes on. And I'm very excited to see the images coming out of it at the Olympics this year. So what do you think? Is this what you've been hoping for in the R1? Will you be upgrading from your current R3? Is it finally time to say goodbye to the 1DX Mark III and make that switch to a professional mirrorless camera? But what would you like to know more information about in a follow-up video? Please let me know in the comment section below. We always do our best to respond. But if you enjoyed this video, then please also like it and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us over on Instagram and TikTok for more content. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and we'll see you very soon.